Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to start off by saying what a pleasure it is to be here and how honored I am to be amongst these great partners. My name is Andrew Sellers. I lead Confluent's Technology Strategy Group. So it's a cool team of, we'll say, our field CTOs, distributed systems researchers, and our customer and product advisory boards. And so it gives me a great view of the market, and in a sense, I get to act as an arbiter between our product strategy and our go-to-market motions. At Confluent, we bring a data streaming platform to market. And so if everyone is familiar with Apache Kafka or Apache Flink, we build data streaming technologies around those projects and many others. And so we get to do a lot of fun things with artificial intelligence as well. I've been doing data streaming for a few years now, but I've been doing AI for actually my entire career. It doesn't even feel like that long, but it's been about 20 years now since I went to graduate school and studied AI, and I've spent most of my time since as either a machine learning researcher or someone who's commercialized AI-enabled technologies. And in that time, AI always felt like this thing that was just on the cusp of being relevant. It always felt like it was 3 to 4 years away. And I have to say, this moment that we're living in right now, it feels different. I think if I had to explain the intuition of that comment, I think a lot of it comes down to the nature of these foundation models, the large language models and the others that we use for things like generative AI. The state of the art that we find ourselves with is that they are, in a sense, meant to be reusable. We spend a lot of time, a lot of resources, often, at least with the state of the art ones, to train them on a huge corpus of data. But once that's done, they can be almost treated like a black box. And that's wonderful, except when it comes time to use them for enterprise applications. We have to do things like contextualize our domain-specific information with them using techniques like retrieval augmented generation or fine-tuning or transfer learning. And so what is great about this new moment is I no longer need that legion of PhDs and data scientists and statistics to do things like feature engineering and model training and bias characterization, those things that we had to do before that limited the democratization of these technologies. And yet the data engineering challenges remain, particularly in light of delivering these sophisticated reactive experiences that our internal knowledge workers and our external customers have come to expect. And so today, we thought we'd bring together some of our partners to talk about that specific part of AI. So we're not here to talk about models. We're here to talk about the data itself. And I think that it's awfully important. One thing I found in my career, if I had to sort of list some of those truisms, or one of those things that has just always ended up being strongly relevant, is that really great data with off-the-shelf models, it's always outperformed, we'll say, limited data with state-of-the-art models. And I think a lot of enterprises, they make that I would say perhaps a bit of a fallacy or a bit of an anti-pattern where they want to invest very heavily in getting the model part right and then not look at things like data governance, not look at data completeness, not look at data lineage and provenance. And it turns out, as we often say, garbage in, garbage out with these kinds of technologies. And so I'm really excited to be here today with some partners to talk about, through different lenses, how we help enterprises get ready for AI by assuring data quality and the role that all of us in the ecosystem play in that. So I just want to start off and just have each of the panel members just introduce themselves briefly, talk about maybe their company and what they do there. So Wei Fan, you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. Wei Fan Lian. I'm Partner Solutions Architect with AWS close to 5 years now. Time flies.
Cool, yeah.
I support our top strategy data AI partners like Confluent and lead the joint innovation and service integrations and all the fun stuff. And some of that will be announced or you will see in all the sections. I'm based in Michigan, the cold place.
Yeah.
I was telling Andrew.
Cold today, too.
Yeah, it was snowing when I left the airport, and you can see I wear a very warm jacket today. And about AWS, as you're sitting here, probably you don't need any more introduction. But even want to say one thing, after 5 years, still amazed with the pace of our innovations. And today we have over 240 fully featured services from 108 availability zones from 34 regions. And also another announced plan for 6 more regions. And millions of customers, including fast-growing startups, largest enterprise, and leading government agencies, all in trust AWS to power their infrastructure, to become more agile, and also lower the cost. So I'm very glad to be here and with the panelists to discuss how help you to get data ready for AI.
Very good, thank you. Nuruddin, yeah, please tell us about yourself and your company.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nuruddin Abbas Ali, and I lead the partner engineering team for MongoDB worldwide. Now, this is a very fun team. What it does is it works with partners like AWS and Confluent and others in building different integrations and solutions that then we can take to market. But the idea is to build something that is more strategic, more sustainable, and scalable at production level. So that's what the team does. I've been in the industry longer than I would love to admit, so let's skip that part. But during this time, I have worked with several technologies. I started as a developer, as did a lot of you, I can imagine. And then I moved into automation, cloud computing, and I've been working with AI for the past few years. Now, when I'm not helping partners or customers, I like to write. So I recently published my first book, so that's great.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Well, yeah, enough about me. MongoDB, a lot of you would already know, but let me just introduce what MongoDB is. MongoDB is the world's most beloved developer data platform. That's how we like to call it.
That's good.
Right? So why do we say that, right? And it started off as an open source project, right? So it was an open source document database that quickly evolved into something that would allow enterprises to build these applications that were distributed, scalable, and could go at a global level, right? So as the requirements for applications changed, that's where MongoDB went. Now, we started investing very quietly into the AI space early on. And from a feature perspective, we went into vector search, we went into regular search, hybrid search, and so on. And MongoDB also has generative AI capabilities around query generation, around model training, application modernization, and so on. This year, we did launch what is called the MongoDB AI Application Program, the MAP program, with partners like AWS and Confluent. That announcement came out today. And what that program essentially allows our customers to do is to get from rapid prototyping of generative AI use cases to production level scalable implementations of that. And we'll talk about that more about that as we go along.
Thank you, Noor. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amod Bavare. I'm a principal partner with Deloitte Consulting, part of what we call as the AI and engineering business. So given where the market is right now and the demand we see in the market, Deloitte brought the AI and data and engineering together as one business now. So we go to market with bringing deep industry knowledge, capabilities around specific solutions that are needed in the marketplace today, as well as bringing in engineering capabilities, full stack development, brought to you by leveraging partners like AWS, Confluent, and MongoDB. So I'm part of the practice where my role is to bring the best of Deloitte as well as the partners together to create strategic deals for our clients where we can serve it. So what does that mean is basically in today's market or today's industries, everybody has got data for years now. And how do we leverage that data by putting in AI into it and helping what Andrew said earlier was around the internal users as well as the customers. So I have several customers that are basically, when I say customers, the industry customers that want to use AI, but how can you put it in an application that is user-friendly and it's available to be used? And similarly for internal people to make sense of the data that's available so that they can be more intelligent.
Well, thank you all. It's such a pleasure to have you here today, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion. So let's get into it. one thing I love about this panel is the diversity of perspective here. We have a solutions integrator, we've got a cloud services provider, we've got an independent software vendor. And so I think each of you are going to see the world a little bit differently. So just to start off, I'd love to hear how the new trends or opportunities that you're seeing around real-time generative AI-enabled applications. So Ahmad, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So like I said, Deloitte is engaged in delivering industry solutions that are powered by engineering. So we bring full stack delivery, and what we see in the market today and the demand is around, like Noor mentioned, about modernizing systems. So to give an example, one of my clients is in retail world, and they are a traditional retailer, not like Amazon or something like that was born in the cloud. So they are dealing with a situation where how can they help? They're in construction business. So they want their contractors to be able to leverage data that's available using their mobile devices and AI to help them build homes or anything in construction industry with intelligence. So that's where we are helping our clients deliver some real solutions that are based on MongoDB and AWS platform and Confluent from Kafka perspective to make it a real world solution.
Very well, thank you. Rudine, what about with Mongo? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so when we started working with customers on these use cases, we were seeing a lot of RAG use cases or knowledge-based RAG use cases, as most of you have. And those use cases are still a major chunk of what we are seeing right now. But what has recently changed is that now we are seeing more advanced agent-based use cases. So it's not just the RAG, but an agent that can do more than just an LLM, right, or an LLM. So that's one thing that has changed over time. Now, in order to power these agent-based use cases, different requirements such as hybrid search has come in on top of vector search, amongst other things. Additionally, what we've seen is that large language models are immensely popular. But when it comes to productionizing these workloads, there are certain factors that come into mind, right? And small language models are really picking up now.
Yep.
And the reason for that is that they can be very specific. You can train and fine-tune them specific to an industry. They can be localized easier because they're smaller by definition. And all of this leads to a lower total cost of ownership, which is adding to the popularity of those. So those are some of the things that we've seen recently in the industry.
Oh, thank you very much. Wei-Feng, what are you seeing at AWS?
Yeah, I will echo what Nudin just said.
Yeah.
We also see the agentic AI actually is a big trend. The reason, very simple. We all want AI really help us to solve some complex business problems, right? And not just simple ask question and get answer, really to help you in the business part. For example, booking your travel, process your claim, right? Customer service. And in that case, you need the multi-steps to handle the task, also pulling the right data to support that, and in an automated fashion. And it's really seamless, and you like that assistant, right? So, and the other thing, we also see a big trend from the industry from last year. Probably you talk a lot about this POC, right? Try to pilot. But this year, we already seen the true production, and you probably noticed in the news, our AWS Innovation Center helping customers. Over 50% actually in production workload today for the GenAI applications. If you don't mind, I can take a quick poll. How many of you already have the production GenAI workload?
Just a few.
Hands.
There's a few.
A few. So maybe time to sign up for our innovation center. How many of you already tried like the POC stuff? Yeah, more hands.
A few more hands.
Yeah, makes sense.
No, very good. Thank you. So for the next question, I think that an important thing that we established then is that building and getting an AI-enabled application to production is far more about the model. It's far more than the model itself. That you actually need these other technologies, particularly to do things like data contextualization and do search and relevance and to actually make sure that there's some guardrails in place. There's a lot of data engineering. And so given this diverse panel that we have, I'd love for each of you to talk through where you're positioned in the tech stack. Again, AWS, you do have some models, but you do other things too.
Yeah.
At Confluent, we're really big into delivery of operational, trustworthy, real-time data to contextualize, for retrieval augmented generation or for model training or for fine-tuning, which, is all very helpful and important. But I'd love to hear each of you position, where you fit into this, again, beyond the modeling. So Wei Feng, you want to go first?
Yeah, you already got some keywords to music to my ear.
Yeah, good.
Like the guardrail, right? I think many of you already seen our AI stack, like the 3 layers. So from the bottom is the infrastructure, talking about the chipset.
Yep.
Some of you know we are very close partner with NVIDIA, and we have the latest chip ready for you. And on the other hand, we also have our own inference chip, Inferentia, and have our training chip for Trainium. And the other thing in the middle is the model part. So we have Bedrock. It's the easiest way for you and give you the choice to select the model, fit your business, fit your need. And in addition to the model, we also have the guardrail. Andrew mentioned that. And we have the agent, and we build more feature to help you. Just through one single API, you can access the model with your choice. And on top of the middle layer is truly the Gen AI applications. You can build your applications, leverage the model. And AWS also provide you with the queue, right? Queue for developer, queue for business, and the development studio as well. And besides the stack, as Andrew mentioned, what else, right? Of course, AWS is a technology company. And we also leverage the partner from the ISV side, MongoDB, Confluent, and with consulting partner like Deloitte to really help you accelerate the journey and have the best practice and have the proven methodology to help you get the business value from Gen AI.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Noreen, what do you think?
Absolutely. So on our side, obviously, we're here to talk about different things, and we are on the data side when it comes to MongoDB. Now, MongoDB helps you work with data which is structured, unstructured, semi-structured. And you'll encounter all these data types when you're working with Gen AI use cases, right? On top of that, if you look at the technology stack, we introduced things like search, and then vector search, and then ultimately hybrid search. Why I mention all of these things is because when you are building an AI pipeline, like the ones that like agentic pipelines, as you said earlier, these pipelines will not only depend on one type of, retrieval mechanism. And that's where you need something that is able to, talk to your data, which looks and feels different depending on the source and the requirements in terms of search and vector and so on and so forth. So we kind of started building towards those different technologies. Additionally, we recently introduced Atlas stream processing, right? And that basically allows you to process in low latency, high volume, high velocity data. Now, why is that relevant, you might ask, right? And the thing is that when you're working with a Gen AI use case, which needs to be operationally ready, you want to make sure that your data is updated and as fresh as possible. And that's where technologies like Atlas stream processing and Confluent work together to bring that to you.
Thank you very much. Well, what about when you're actually implementing these solutions? It's the same thing, right? Where I imagine the tech matters and also the expertise and the experience really matter too, yeah?
Exactly. You said it right, Andrew. The expertise, whether it is industry-specific or a sector-specific knowledge on how to apply those use cases and how to make them real, that comes along with the technology stack, right? And so, like I said earlier, majority of our clients, joint clients, I should say, have years and years worth of data. How do you make it relevant? How do you make sure the data is clean that can be fed into LLMs or other models, right? And make them really beneficial for that. So I'll give an example of in the healthcare industry, especially if you think about the nurses and the physicians that take care of us when we show up at their clinic or with a hospital. Bringing what Noor mentioned about was data that's happening in real time and not historical data, but collating that together and making sure that is the right relevant information is available for someone to make a decision that is going to impact a human being. So those are the things that I feel that the tech stack as well as how we bring the industry experience working together.
Yeah, no, it's very helpful, thanks. So getting into it, maybe a little more controversial in this one now. I love, Wei-Fang, that you did that poll, because I think we all recognize the tremendous potential of artificial intelligence. And yet, there aren't as much of these applications in production as I think we would expect given that potential. And so I think it's worth talking a bit now about what are those barriers to success that we see. You know, what keeps these things at the POC stage? What are the things that keep us from getting to production? And really, to what extent does data readiness play a role in all of that? And so, I mean, I know you've seen so much of this at Deloitte. Like, can you help us, understand what you see?
I think the biggest barrier I feel is in the organization is show me some real use cases that can not only increase my top line growth, but also lower my cost of operations, right? And can you make it applicable? So I go back in time when analytics was introduced 10, 12 years back. Again, the same problem statement was there. I said, like, everybody loves about analytics, but how to make it real for a specific sector or a business process was there. And that's where data readiness was also at that time, and in analytics was there, right? Otherwise, we were getting static reports at that point of time that you would run every day and you would get it, but there was no analytics that was getting brought out. And that was the human brain that was getting applied at that point of time. But with Gen AI, I feel like the LLMs is doing majority of the data processing, generating that analytics and bringing that intelligence out and providing it readily to people. And I think that's where bringing some real life use cases is the biggest barrier. People have the money, they have the desire to spend. It is just presenting them with some real world scenarios.
No, thank you. Nuruddin, Mongo you must see a little bit differently too, just because there you're doing a lot more. I'm sure data curation and data preparation and making sure that you're doing the right contextualization with, I know you said Alice stream processing, you're trying to find, the relevance engine that actually returns the best data for a particular query or a particular task. Particularly now with agentic workflows, trying to make those things composable and repeatable and trustworthy. What are you seeing?
So what we've seen in many of the use cases is that there are two things that usually come up quite often. One is when I have to work with all this data that I need to feed to my Gen AI application, how do I model it? So that's one area that we have seen an issue, like as a barrier, because that becomes a challenge. And then the other one is how do I establish compliance across the data pipeline? So these are two main things that I would like to talk about a little more on. So when it comes to data modeling, organizations will have data sitting in all sorts of applications, more often than not in different silos, right? And in formats, and as you said, in a state that is not ideal to be fed to an agent or a large language model for processing. So that is probably one of the biggest barriers that we have seen is organizations trying to figure out, how do I bring all this data together? How do I clean it up? How do I bring it into a format that I can get valuable results out of? And this is an old problem, right? It's just newer use case. So we've seen this problem with use cases like Customer 360 or Golden Record, and it has 1,000 more names for it. But it is essentially the same problem. How do I get all this data together in a way that is usable for my Gen AI application? Another one that I mentioned was compliance, right? So organizations, like if you go in production, you go in finance, you go in healthcare, you have all these different security requirements, guardrails across who can access what data, right? And organizations go through painful processes of establishing these guardrails. Now, when you're building an AI pipeline, how do you ensure that you're able to implement something similar? Like if I'm doing an LLM, anyone who has access to the LLM can ask a question. And if the LLM is not, how does the LLM ensure that this person should not know this information? So establishing those guardrails, establishing the compliance to productionize a workload like that is another one that usually comes in.
No, I think it's funny because it's sort of like what's old is new again. I think that we've all done that if any application we bring to market, it's remarkable how 90% of it or something like that, some majority of it is the data modeling. And it is things like compliance. So, Wei, do you see the world significantly differently, or do you see some of these same challenges at AWS?
Very similar, as both panelists mentioned, for the compliance, the risk mitigation, and security, privacy. That's all drop zero for AWS as well. And the other thing come to my mind as the old and new. Now it's the new word hallucination. Probably one word can summarize this barrier we see for particularly the highly regulated industry, right? The one word can expand to one sentence, like the management or the leadership will ask, how can I trust the data?
Yeah.
How can I trust the result, right? So long story short, right? Getting the data ready, that's one part. The other part, you have the framework, the end-to-end governance in place to really meet the regulation compliance. And that's very critical for lots of enterprise to adopt. And the other thing is about your domain-specific knowledge. Because in the end of the day, you will know your customer, know your business the best. So you will be your judge to say, is this result good enough for my customers? I will live here because this is a journey. And I don't think we get a simple answer. We will see the challenge every day.
I mean, it's funny because there's a big group of us here. And so, of course, you put a bunch of technologists on stage. They're going to be very good at brainstorming the problems. Yeah. But now I'll put us on the spot a bit. And Wei, I think you sort of have already started this discussion. But how do we overcome some of those challenges? What are the things that you're seeing? I would hope by now that we're even starting to see some, and I think it's fair to say we're seeing the emergence of some best practices in this space. That we are learning the lessons of those that are getting these things to production and doing it well and getting a real return on investment. And so, given what you have seen, how would you advise some of these organizations to really overcome the common obstacles that we've seen? I mean, Wei, you kind of answered there a bit, but do you have sort of any other thoughts on sort of, I know that with the tools that you have, the Innovation Center and others, I mean, there must be, I guess, some patterns that we can discern about what makes these things successful.
Yeah, one thing I would like to add is looking at from AWS, the principle or philosophy. And by the way, if you haven't got a chance to read Andy Jassy's shareholder letter, actually he said it very well, and how to define this AWS and what's the ground truth to really leverage the tool. So one thing you probably can feel that for AWS is the fully managed service, the security, the compliance, and your data privacy all already taken into consideration. So when you use Bedrock, right, you have the peace of mind, and you own your data, and you control your data. You leverage AWS to help you achieve the business value. And the other thing is easier to say than done, right? It's need practice. Because in the beginning, probably your organization, you may be the strongest advocate. You're sitting here, right? You want to have AI. But you have lots of questions asked. So start small step, right? Pick one or two workload to begin with, and then quickly scale. Because you will not see that the full readiness unless you have that scale in mind, right? You're not just building one pipeline is easy. But once you connect with all your data and serving all your line of business, that becomes complex. And also the regulation come into place. Can you, even with the same financial service firm, but different line of business, and bank and brokerage, can you really share the data, customer data, right? That would be a simple question, but tough to answer. So
that's good, yeah. Nuruddin, do you have any emerging best practices you're seeing at Mongo?
Yeah, so I think the two of you have covered a lot of ground, so I'll try to be additive, just not to be redundant on this. From our side, what we've seen is if you can simplify your data pipeline, right? So simplify it as much as possible. What that allows you to do is it allows you to focus on innovating rather than building these cumbersome ETL processes, trying to get data, fresh data into your GenAI use cases, right? So simplify that pipeline as much as possible. Work with technologies such as Confluent in order to get real-time or near real-time data as much as possible into your GenAI applications. And then work with platforms such as AWS in order to ensure the compliance across the data, because these are all questions you will need to answer before you productionize anything. So you will need all of these things if I were starting this today, these are the things that I would look at in terms of working with data. Yeah.
Sounds good. And Amud, I know you see lots of customers then, and so what kinds of recommendations or what I guess things do you suggest to them to help them overcome some of these challenges of getting these applications into production?
Sure. Like Wifan said, this is a journey. This is not something that can happen overnight. So two things I would recommend. One is start small and pick a business process that's important for you, where you can demonstrate and find a friendly audience,
yeah.
right? That Noor was mentioning, because there are going to be a lot of stakeholders that are going to be either supporting you or naysayers. So start with a business process. Don't try to boil the ocean. And go from there, and it will take you, get some apps going that are in production and leveraging the technologies that you already have invested in rather than trying to do something new.
Oh, thank you very much. I think that set of answers, I think if it proves anything, is that this is very much a team sport. There's not going to be a single technology or a single point solution that is going to get you all the way there. I think of what we do at Confluent. We're about serving this trustworthy data from whatever disparate silo it ends up in the enterprise. But we're not an LLM provider, like AWS. We're not, a vector store like Mongo. We're not the experts the way Deloitte is. And so it takes kind of everyone. And so I think we all have a part to play in that. Wei-Feng, what do you say AWS's central role in doing this is?
Wow. I think we can play one key role is innovate on behalf of customers.
Yep.
And that's the word you probably already heard about, like working backwards, right?
Yeah.
And we see what you need, and we keep innovating. Like all these new services we launch, the new features built on top of the services.
Yeah.
Like just how many years ago? 2017, we announced SageMaker. Right?
Yep.
The big step to machine learning and AI. And last year, we have this Bedrock. And you should see something big coming tomorrow. The other thing, I would say, we also help you lower the cost whenever possible. We keep that in mind. Because in the end, it's a business decision. It's a business value consideration. So, and also, you need to scale, right? Think about your fast-growing business, and cost at some point will come to your mind. Yep. So that's the two things I would say we play the role.
Rudy, what do you think?
So we talked about a bunch of challenges and what people should do. Where MongoDB plays a role there is we talked about getting all this data into a single place or into a place where you could work with it. And that's where MongoDB comes in terms of supporting not just your structured requirements, but semi-structured and unstructured requirements in all sorts of formats, shapes, and sizes, right? So that's one key area that Mongo can help with. The other area that Mongo can help with is in terms of our search and vector search capabilities, which then translate into hybrid search requirements. I keep saying hybrid search like a parrot because it keeps coming up, right? Not everything is answered by a vector. If you take anything away from this session, take that, right? No, you will need more than just a vector search in order to address your challenges. So that's where Mongo can help in terms of these different capabilities and requirements. And we talked about the MongoDB AI application program. As Andrew said, this is a team sport. We realized that long ago, and hence we've partnered with industry leaders in the AI space So we can work with you in order to bring all these partners together to make sure that you have a trustworthy data pipeline in order to fulfill your requirements. So yeah.
It's an interesting point about the hybrid search for sure. I think that until you've built one of these applications, I think you don't necessarily appreciate that you can't just naively vectorize, particularly structured data. That a lot of meaning gets lost, from not including schemas, and if you can cap things together in these big data cubes, it ends up being really challenging. So I love what you've done at Mongo, where you actually use the vector store as a secondary index over the existing operational model, because you're exactly right. In hybrid search, you need both. And I will say, for the majority of our customers that have gotten these applications to production, it's taken both. It's not purely unstructured data. You actually need to have the operational structured data, things that live in relations or documents as well. So that's great. Amod, with everything that you see, I think a lot of what I think you as solutions integrators do is take these like great Lego kits that we all provide and actually make it real and realize the imagination of your customers. What do you do to solve those kinds of challenges, to actually make this thing real?
So excellent question, Andrew. So I was going to talk about a couple of things that we bring to the table by like the Lego pieces to stitch them together. We have a tool known as AI Assist, which is basically helps take your existing business applications and reverse engineer them into story points that can generate your code that you can insert in your LLMs into that at that point of time, bring in new technologies like MongoDB underneath it, like powered by AWS, Q, and others. But more importantly is it also gives you the automation capabilities to generate your test cases and everything. Yeah. So it helps you fast track some of the stuff. And same thing with Data Assist, which is we are partnered with AWS and MongoDB on that, try to generate that quality data that can be fed into your LLMs, right? And that engineers in this room, I think if you take a look at both of these tools, you will love it because that fast tracks your development cycle.
Oh, very cool. Thank you very much. So Nuruddin, I want you to start on this one. I think that we're very excited by all the different things that I see our customers bring to market. It's something that has given me a lot of confidence in the real utility of these technologies. Can you share a particular success story, and particularly one where it wasn't a modeling victory, but one where the data curation or the way that we delivered data was the critical thing that unlocked a really cool application?
Sure. So what I can share today is a use case we did with Cisco, and what we were trying to build with Cisco was a virtual assistant for their support cases.
Yep.
And they had certain technologies in place, but they weren't productionized to the level that they wanted it to be. Over the past 3 years, believe it or not, AI has been around for a while. They have served numerous support cases using just the virtual assistant, saved more upwards of 10 million a year on that. So that kind of like when people tell me, is Gen AI going to make us money? Well, that's how you make money with Gen AI. So that's an example of that. Now, when Cisco came to us, they could have gone to anyone, right? And when they came to us, one of their key requirements when working with us was that can you bring the same level of trustworthiness and compliance across our data that you have with the operational data that sits in MongoDB for them? Now, we worked with their security teams extensively to make sure that their requirements were met. But from a technology perspective, what MongoDB was able to do was able to put together operational data, vectorized data, and metadata side by side, and then apply the same set of regulatory compliance and end-to-end encryption on the data pipeline. Yep. What that effectively allowed Cisco to do is have the same level of trust when working with that use case because they had secured the whole pipeline end-to-end using these technologies. And now when their developers were developing or focusing on innovation, they could do this safely and securely because they knew that the approach was more holistic, right? It wasn't just about let's do a POC. It was more about, okay, we've secured it, we have the end-to-end compliance, we're productionizing something, and that's something that we did with Cisco and continue to work with them on that.
No, very cool. Ahmad, do you have any really cool success stories from customers that you'd like to share?
Sure, there are a couple of them, and I primarily focus in retail and healthcare, so that's where they're dear to my heart. So in healthcare, as you know, in the last few years, electronic health records has become very popular, and it's become mandatory that every physician, every hospital has to use it to maintain. And then portability is going to come someday in the near future. But what happens is most of those medical providers did not grow up with computers. And so they used to use paper charts to document every time they see you. But today, if you go walk into a doctor's office, they are in front of laptops, and they don't know how to type fast as they're having conversations with the patients, or they need a scribe that can do it for them, and then again they have to review it. So the turnaround time, and they only get paid when they turn in the note that they saw the patient and this was a diagnosis and this was kind of all the stuff. So what Gen AI has done is basically help them scribe as a conversational English that they're having with their patient. Immediately they leave their phone in their pocket and they're having conversation like, hey, what brings you in today? What kind of pain are you feeling or anything? That is basically not only scribing it, but they wear smart glasses, and it's telling them what should be the next question. They have seen this thing happen, this could be potential diagnosis and everything. And that has not only reduced the time it takes to see a patient, but also is helping the providers bring intelligence that was limited to the books, or they had to go do some research. Now it's readily available on hand, right? Similarly, a second thing is in the retail space. One of my clients is in construction business, I mentioned earlier. They were getting a lot of complaints from the customers that were buying their products, and when the installers went to install the product, they having aging workforce issue. They were having new people that were joining their workforce, and the new workforce team did not have the knowledge on how to install it correctly. So now with Gen AI, they are able to, even before they start installation, they're pointing their phone or a tablet to the construction area, and it immediately lays out the plan for them and which part needs to go where and how to assemble it, step-by-step process. And if something is not done correctly, right before they leave, they again take a picture, and it immediately tells them something needs to be fixed. That has reduced the amount it takes to do recalls, as well as increases customer satisfaction. That's the real world scenarios that I feel that people are being benefited from.
Ahmad, I think those are so cool too. I think about, what doctors, what their time is worth. And I mean, you're talking real ROI there. And not only just saving them time on say, the record keeping, but you're also then giving them back more time with patients. I mean, what a wonderful outcome that this AI is helping us do. So, Wei-Feng, I know at AWS you must have lots of great examples of success stories. So do you have any that really just, lift your heart or really make you, really resonate with you?
This is my favorite question, in fact. I love to share customer success stories, but I'm going to limit myself probably one or two.
Okay.
But first of all, I love the story you share about healthcare, echo what Andrew said, right? As a patient coming to visit, about the terminology, you really want to have the service. And similarly, I'm thinking one case come to mind. First of all, I want to check how many of you are a golf player? Yeah,
there's a few.
Love that. But myself is not a true golf player. So we have a partnership with PGA Tour. So basically the story is like what Amol mentioned earlier, is the historical data combined with the real time. And think about the tour over the years, they have all the media and combine the assets. They have a media assets management group just for all the video clips. And how to extract the information, particularly how to put the footage into the right terms and let the audience like really use the golf term. That's one thing. The other thing, they leverage Bedrock also to predict for that shot, based on the historical performance and based on the codes, and then predict how the shot will go within 1.5 seconds. And the other story, if I could share, is really come to my heart for DoorDash, right? Because my younger son actually worked as a dasher in the summer. So sometimes he come back saying, today I have a good day. And then he said, no, today it's hard to get business. And it's hard of press for AWS and partner with DoorDash. Again, with the historical data, DoorDash combine all this data. And the real time, when the dasher try to get support from the center, right? And the phone solution, the speed and accuracy is very important to help the dasher, right? Either find the right place, find the right restaurant, and serve the user. And DoorDash today have like over 39 million users. I'm not sure how many of you use DoorDash, but they have 2 million dashers just trying to earn some money and help the people get the food. So to me, that's a very good story. On top of the phone solution, they save like $3 million a month. Year over year. I'm trying to see the future. The other thing, also for the response time, when they call, they get the response, the latency shortened like within around 2 seconds. So that's really cool. Confluent, we always talk about real-time use case, right?
Yep.
So customer service, you have satisfied customer, you also have a workforce really get motivated by the real result. So we have more stories. Check out our website and find some cool use case.
We're running a little short on time, so I think we'll go past this one, and I think settle on this question. And so, given all the things that we've talked about today, how do we coalesce around, I guess, a few pieces of sage advice, something that if you're an organization that's just getting started with these technologies and you want to find some use case to get to production and get some kind of return on investment from that, how do you get started? I don't know, what do you think?
I think the key is the quality of data.
Yep.
Right? That's going to be the biggest challenge, as well as something that you can tackle, leveraging the modern technologies that you have.
Yep.
And building out small language models and leveraging what's available in the market from like Bedrock or something from LLM perspective that you customize to your needs. And that can help you get going in a rapid fashion.
Rudin?
Yeah. So what Amod mentioned earlier, I'm going to pick from that, is that define your requirements, right? Figure out what use case. Don't try to boil the ocean. When it comes to models, because you will be working with one model or the other, try to figure out which is the right model for you. Complex is not always better, right? So figure that out. Make sure you can get the right data in the right fashion to these use cases, because it's, as Andrew mentioned in the beginning, garbage in, garbage out otherwise, right? So make sure you can do that. Other than that, we talked about things like compliance and establishing end-to-end guardrails. One thing that we did not touch upon, which I think is equally important, is education. So educate your teams as much as possible. This is new to everyone, including your teams. So the more educated they are on the AI space, the better they will be able to contribute to this entire space.
Yeah. Wei-Feng, what do you think? How do you advise enterprises that are just getting started, take that first step?
Yeah, as they're talking about, trying to come to my mind, wearing two hats, one as consultant, the other one as architect, right? So one touch on really for your enterprise or your business to start the journey, you got to move quickly because this evolving so fast, right? The pace, you all see that. The other thing is customize, right? Customize the model, customize your data. Again, data, your domain-specific data is your differentiator. And nobody knows better than you about the business, about the customer. So you really need to leverage that. And the other thing, think about scale, right? Not just building one pipeline, right? It's really about the scale. And with that, I'm thinking switching back to the architect mind is a few things I want to call out. You start with the strong data foundation, right? Without that, everything is just empty talk. So the data foundation have many parts of that. But keep that in mind, right? In the end of the day, you want to have a single place you really trust, integrate, and easy to use. So as possible, as a practitioner, always advocate how you can make the data sharing possible across your organization boundary, across the data storage boundary, and make it available for consumption, right? And the second thing, leverage your existing data architecture. Extend that, right? You already have something in-house, regardless, right? And if you're running on AWS, that's super cool. You're already in modern data architecture. And we have the biggest portfolio for the data analytic and AI services. So you can leverage that for streaming, right? For big data, and for the search, for non-SQL DB, right? And with the partners as well. And one more thing is really make your Gen AI work with your data, right? Yeah. And there are many methods, but mainly three how to make for the Gen AI, right? The RAG we talk about, you're all familiar, and fine-tuning, right? In that case, about the data is really, you may have some sample data. You kind of label that. For example, if you're running in consulting, you run a proposal, you know that proposal is a good proposal, you may label that. So you fine-tune your model, you train that, right? And the third one, also, even you continue pre-training or you start from scratch, right? If you have that investment, again, not just the public data. You need to find your own domain-specific data and trying to put that into the model training. Even that's considered unlabeled data, right? So with that all work together from architect standpoint, and one more thing, as the panelists already mentioned, you really look at the business value, and that's the success of the key success factor, because in the end, right, what impact for your use case will bring in, you define how far you go and how much you can bring back to your organization.
Anyway, everyone, that's all the time we have today. I just want to thank you so much for coming. This was a lot of fun. I want to thank the panelists. Again, it was such a pleasure to do this with you. Can we get a hand for the panelists, please? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.